I don't care about my own secrets. I'm pretty much been sharing my life since I thought that I was going to die, but other people's secrets I keep. So a bit hard because they are all part of it too. Now, do have a strong wanting to help people, like a yearning to wanting to help people. That has been a big thing throughout my life. And what I wrote down was, where does that come from? Like, I think it comes from me wanting and yearning for help myself. Like, I see suffering in everyone, maybe because I see suffering in myself. And when I look at past boyfriends, that I could see a pattern, but I couldn't see where it stemmed from. So I don't know where that stems from yet. I hope to hit the nail on the head somewhere along the lines. I thought that the rapes were one of my big stories, and it was. In my life, that was a big story in my life. But because I've worked on that one so much throughout my life, it's not a big story now. It's just part of the past, and it doesn't hold any negative charge for me. But it did. And I did do regression hypnotherapy on my smoking a couple of months ago, and that went straight to, the sexual traumas in my life. But I don't feel any negative charge for that, even though it's still a memory that still pops up. But it's a memory that pops up because it's been a reoccurring story that has affected me. I think my biggest traumas is related to my parents. It's related to, I definitely see a reoccurring theme in my life based on the things in my parents, but it's also something that I've been working on. Like, because I've been aware of it since I started, like, my personal development journey, let alone everything else. Like, everything I do in my life is to work through my issues with my parents. I feel like I've come such a long way. I forgave them 1,000 times. I've forgiven myself. I've had compassion. I've broken down Dad's story, Mum's story, and their past and their generations before them, and why they are the way they are. And that was really helpful. And that I did, 2 decades ago. I know that there's still issues there because I still have a shield around my heart when it comes to both of them. Like, I don't let them in. And I don't let them in because I know that there's hurt there. That at some stage I've turned off my heart for them so that they don't hurt me. Like that little protection shield around my heart. And I don't open it for them because they are the ones that can still hurt me. Before I was born, my mum was with another guy, and she got pregnant, and she was only 21. Then he told her that he actually has children and a family already, and to have an abortion. So she signed up for an abortion, couldn't go through with it, left him. She meets my dad, the one that I call Dad. They get married. You'd think that there's nothing there, but I'm looking at that going, well, kids are they can sense things, they can understand things. Even when they can't understand the actual wording and things like that, they might, I didn't know that my dad wasn't my real dad. And I didn't know that there was all this grief that Mum was going through when she was pregnant with me. Possibly there's something that's transferred there, that feeling of, because she signed up for an abortion, she just didn't go through with it. So that feeling of unwanted, unwelcome, unlovable, and all that could have actually just stemmed from pre-birth. It might not have anything to do with any traumas after that. Or it could be that I was overhearing, even though I didn't understand, I'm a baby, but that I was overhearing their conversations. Everything that was happening around that time, and, all the way up until I found out that my dad wasn't my real dad, which was when I was 12. So there's 12 years of secrets there and whispers and things like that. And I know how we, adults talk around kids. They think that the kids aren't really listening, but the kids are taking on everything. There was so many things, so many conversations and stuff like that with grandparents and all that kind of stuff where I was there that I was taking in. Because I used to have dreams of having a family somewhere else that was rich and loved me and all that kind of stuff, and I was dreaming of that when I was a kid. Like, I'm actually secretly, belong to another family and all that kind of stuff. I don't know where I got those ideas. It might be from conversations that I was overhearing when I was young. Then I found out that Dad wasn't my real dad, and that was big trauma. Mum took me aside and told me, and I didn't know what that meant. You know, I didn't know what that meant for Dad. Did he really love me and all that kind of stuff? And after my grandma died, Dad told me that she always had a problem with me, that because I wasn't his real, you know, because he was an only child, and he, you know, married Mum when she was 4 months pregnant, and it never made sense to me why they were always doting over my sister. Look how big you are and all that kind of stuff, and completely ignoring me. I didn't understand that. Thank God I didn't understand that at the time. But when I did understand it, after he told me that, I was really upset with them. It was like I didn't know, like I didn't know that I wasn't part of that thing, and so I think there's a big deep hole there of not belonging to this family. Not that much later on, but when my parents divorced, Dad was really upset. And even though he was not my blood father, I chose to stay with him because there was actually a lot of trauma there as well. Now that I come to think of it, I caused an argument with my sister. We were fighting. We always used to fight. We were never close. We're close now. I knew how to get her in trouble. I knew that if I screamed really loudly that they would take it out on her because she was the bigger one, even though she was the younger child. And Dad hurt her and then kicked her out, and she ended up having to live with Mum. And they, from that fight, didn't talk for 5 years, and there was a lot of guilt over that from me. And I stayed with Dad, even though I sided with my sister and my mum over it, because I thought that he was going to take his own life because of all the things that had happened, and I felt responsible for that. So I stayed with him. I was the caretaker, not him. I was the one that made the meals. I was the one that did, you know, that. And then he got a girlfriend, and that one was fine. Then he got another girlfriend, and pretty soon they got married, and she had a big problem with me. And I was asked to leave. And I couldn't believe, basically after all I'd sacrificed, I'd say, for him, that he would choose his wife over his own daughter. But angrily and hurt, and not wanting to show that I was hurt, I went on with my life. And the big trauma with Mum is that I actually then lived with her. Actually, there was a car accident in between all this at some stage, and that's why I ended up with Mum. I don't know the order of things anymore. I'm just going through the traumas as they come to my mind. So, Mum was with an alcoholic, idiot boyfriend, really idiot boyfriend. Even she would say that now. And he used to be abusive to her. Drunk, major brain issues, and I stuck up for her. And he threw a remote at me and hit the wall. And my friends were in the spare room at the time, and I don't know if they're the ones that called the police or if a neighbour heard the fight and called the police, but someone called the police. The police came, and Mum, like, I came to the door and I told them what had happened, and Mum came to the door and said, "No, everything's okay, officers," and the officers left. I don't know, like, that was a big trauma in my life, but I've worked on those things. These are the things, all the things that I've worked on throughout the time. And I know that there's still like abandonment kind of issues there. And when I was kicked out of both places because of partners, not because of really my parents, but I still blamed my parents because they're the ones that are supposed to be, you know. I still probably have an issue with the fact that they were okay with me being homeless rather than living with either of them. And so then, yeah, I went into the girls' home, and they put me in a house with other girls. Those girls, I'm just going to hold the camera now. So yeah, I'm living with these girls. These girls, I mean, we're in hospital all the time because they're cutting their arms and, you know, really in a bad place. And they made me see perspective of my own life, where I'm like thinking I'm this victim from just what's happened to me, which is barely anything at all. And they're, in the meanwhile, you know, their whole family is raping them and using them as sex slaves, and even having you know, really intimate relationships with their family and things like that, and they, you know, they got out and they were still living a normal life. So what was I, you know, like, I'm looking at my troubles instead of looking at them as like the world is so shit. I'm looking at my troubles going, well, things could be so much worse. These girls are dealing with a hell of a lot worse things than I am, and I was getting perspective about the whole thing. I think that's when I decided that my problems weren't worthy of worrying about, and, you know, decided not to work on my issues. But as I've grown older and stuff like that, I've gone, oh, okay, there's probably still, you know, abandonment issues and things like that there, because I've still got this shield around my heart. And so I do work on them anyway, even though, you know, for a certain amount of time, I dropped the victim story because I didn't see myself as a victim anymore. I saw myself as, compared to them, what are my dramas? But then I did end up creating more dramas in my life, and I've worked on those. That was the, you know, the rapes and things like that. So those things have been dealt with. Also, you know, earlier in life, I think that, you know, I got asthma and got sick so much and was home so much from school and everything like that, to be able to get love from my parents. I think my mum especially. I don't think either of them were really capable of. I think there was just a lot of issues there, and that I was, like, to blame. And I think I had a lot of shame for being born, being this burden, and, like, mum, you know, losing the love of her life and having to marry somebody else, and that I was the cause of her traumas in her life. You know, 21 years old, you know, having to get married because in those days you can't be a single parent, and things like that. Also, when my real brother, like blood brother, found me, my real father hung up on him, so didn't want anything to do with me, and I went through some trauma there. But I mean, I don't feel anything about that now. But I'm looking at these things and going, well, yeah, there's traumas. There's a pattern of traumas and things like that, but I don't know how to do anything with them. Like, the things that I've tried over the years, I've tried hypnosis, visualizations. I can't visualize anything, and I think maybe something to do with that is the cause of it. Timeline therapy, EFT, which was really effective, NLP. The higher consciousness stuff was the best because I was no longer a victim. That was the best. And also Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. That was really good. And Anthony Robbins, can't remember the book, but that was really, really helpful. Like, I think they saved my life at certain areas, you know, but I've been working on this since, you know, a really young age. I've been knowing that these are, you know, issues in my life. I've tried deep thinking about all these traumas and going through and analysing everything and seeing, you know, basically going up the ladder, seeing what benefits and limited beliefs that I might have taken on from being these things. And yeah, like, I do see this like a big abandonment issue still. And my sister is like, why don't you just let it go? And I thought I had. I thought I had. So I don't know what I'm still holding on to there. But I do think it is them. I don't think it's the rapes, because I have worked on those and they don't really have any negative charges on me anymore. But I've had, you know, a 4-year partner since then, and, you know, I don't have like a lot of sexual issues anymore. But I did have for a long time. But I've worked on those. I really don't feel like I have now. Yeah, so I've worked on, you know, going through different exercises, psychology books and things like that, going through my traumas, working on them until they have no charges. It's been a lifelong journey. Access consciousness, that was good. And then spiritual development, that was good. And the biggest benefit I got was saying, you know, basically that our unique journey, our unique story is our gift to the world. By taking on that persona, I was able to turn my victim mode into a victor mode and start helping people with it. And start just choosing more of a mindset of the victor mindset instead of the victim mindset. And, you know, the whole, you know, doing the podcast and things like that is to basically keep sharpening my tools with that. So I interview people knowing that I've still got issues. Not trying to be some savior. I don't have to be the next Oprah. I can be a person with issues, interviewing people about these issues. You know, that it doesn't, I don't have to be all, you know, I don't think anyone's completely healed from their past, but hey, if they are, please, you know, share. Because I don't know anyone that's delving deep into their past to try and, you know, see what lurks there, to keep delving and delving and delving and finding out that the rabbit hole is endless. There's so many different things in our lives that we could be affected by. In primary school, I was bullied, and I didn't like stand up for myself, and I ended up, you know, spending all my time alone or hanging out with teachers, and I was scared of the other kids, and there's all these, you know, different things there that I didn't deal with. There's like an endless, where do you end? You know, where does it end? There's been a lot of victim mode stuff over the years, but the ones that that are still lingering is these mummy daddy issues at 40 years old. And my ego says, no, you don't want to deal with that now because you're 40 years old. You should be old enough to be over these mummy daddy issues. But I've still got it there because I've still, like, I'm really trying to mend this family while I'm still here. Like, I felt like it was one of the reasons why I ended up here. And, you know, to repair this, I've been trying to get us as a close family again. And that hasn't been working. So been, you know, more okay, accepting where things are, and accepting everybody for who they are and forgiving them and all that kind of stuff. But I know that there's still things there. I just don't know how to get rid of the last remnants. You know, like just knowing about it doesn't resolve it unless there's other things that I haven't uncovered. But I'm still upset that we don't have a close family. I'm still upset that I can't open my heart to my family. I can fully to my sister. I can fully to my nephews. But I can't for my mum and dad. And I don't know where that comes from. Unless it stems from anything like that I've already mentioned. And there is shame. There is shame. Like, I left. You know, I did the Lisa Lodge thing and, you know, the girls' home thing. And I did move around, and I did have, like, hate. Hate, and not even hate. I would say, like, I was just, I mean, I could recognise it back then as hate. I could recognise it now as I was just really sad about everything, how everything turned out. And that was my defence mechanism, my warrior. Like, I'm stronger now because of this, blah, 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 blah. But the best thing I did take on is living in the moment, not living in the past. And, you know, as things were coming up, you process and deal with them as they come up. And that has been the most helpful. You know, it really has changed my life. And yet, you know, the last couple of months have been really fucked up. And I can put some of it back on this past stuff. I can. Like Mum's phone call about the it's time to go, that probably brought up all those abandonment, unlovable, unwanted issues again, which I've still obviously got to work on. I don't know how to work on that. I also don't know how to do that when all my beliefs now off to the side. I have like a big problem with, and this is probably why a lot of things in my life are not kind of worked out, is trying to figure things out for myself. So I do hope that, like, this kind of all over the place video does actually get some kind of answers. The visualization stuff, hypnosis stuff, is not, I'm not an absolute huge fan of it because I fake it. I can't actually visualize. The first kind of visualizations that I got was in the last couple of months when I was crazy. Before that, I didn't get any. So that's why also I was so excited to get the visions and stuff like that. It's because for the first time ever, I was actually being shown things in pictures, so I knew that it was actually possible in my brain. But now that I'm back to this without that that stuff that I was carrying around, yeah, the visualization stuff doesn't really work for me, and I don't know if hypnosis will work for me either because of that. But there's got to be something, I guess, if this is still, yeah, I don't know. So dealing with my crazy, but also dealing with, this is my real life stuff that, you know, lifelong stuff that I don't know, you know, doesn't everybody have these kind of issues, and don't they all deal with it for their whole life? You know what I mean? Like, I can't change what is. Like, I could see the situation for what it was, and I could see that Mum's got her own issues from her own past, and I could see that Dad's got his own issues from his own past. Everyone's got their own issues, their own traumas that they're dealing with, and that's, you know, I'm a result of their traumas as well. And I'm trying to be that person that is, you know, over all my past traumas. But, you know, like, as you go through the traumas, like, as I went through the rape stuff, this other abandonment stuff came up. As I go through this abandonment stuff, there'll be something else. There's always something, because we've got a million things from our thing. And that's why, I don't know, I really would like perspective on, you know, what you think about delving into past and trying to figure that out when I don't have any tools to work with the past stuff now, because I've dealt with the bigger ones and I don't know how to deal with the abandonment ones. All right, I think that's enough. See ya.